Hello, welcome to True Crime Chat tonight. Let me fix my crazy hair. How is everybody doing tonight? We're going to talk a bit. We're going to go over a case if you would like to. And we're just going to chat and just hang out and talk on this Monday night. So, how's everybody doing? I don't do lives very often, so it's kind of nice to be able to come in and do a live with you. So, how is everybody doing? Let me get set up here. Give me just a minute to do what I need to do here. Let's see. How is everybody's Monday going? Is everybody's having a good Monday? Anybody do anything fun over the weekend? Anybody do anything fun? Any case suggestions? Anybody feeling super passionate about anything right now that you want to talk about? Let me go live over here. It's so nice to be on and live with you guys. It's something I don't do a ton, so I'm super excited. Alright. Okay. Definitely not what I wanted. It seems like you do a lot of research on true crime. Hats off to you. Oh, I love that. Okay, so I'm going live over on TikTok as well. Okay. All right, so we're set up and we're live. Welcome in. Hello, hello. Okay, so Monday night, trying to get used to lives more, and it is so hard because I don't do lives very often. It's just not my forte, but I'm practicing because I know that it's really fun to connect and talk to you guys, at least once a week. So I am doing my best. Tonight I have a case if you guys don't have anything to talk about or that you're really passionate to talk about. I do have something that we could go over and talk about, so we have that. I also have a unsolved case that I was going to bring up, see if anybody knew anything about it, ever heard of it before, anything like that. And it is out of Claremont, Florida. So it's definitely one to, just think about. And it's something that not a lot of people know. So I'm excited to share that. Hi, welcome in. First of all, anybody have anything they specifically want to talk about? Any cases, any big news? I know there hasn't been a ton of true crime news this weekend, but there's just been little blurbs. If you guys have anything that you truly want to talk about, just bring it up. We'll go over it. Hi, how are you? I guess first, let's talk about the unsolved case. So this unsolved case is the unaliving of Pamela Walton. This happened in 1988, so it's an older case. It's still unsolved. The location is Clermont, Florida, and she was discovered on September 25th, 1988. It's something that I kind of wanted to talk about because there is so much here, but there hasn't been anything discovered. It's a very interesting little blurb that I had found, and I think it really needs attention because being in 1988, that's a long time for a family to go without knowing anything, having any clue of what's going on. So yeah. So her age when she kind of disappeared was approximately 25. For nearly 37 years, the identity of this woman was just a Jane Doe. We didn't know who she was, where, what happened to her, anything like that. And so she was unidentified. She was a Julie Doe. And she was found unalived in the woods near Clermont, Florida. And she had no name for 37 years. That's a long time for a family to go. And it was believed that she was a cisgender woman, and DNA testing went through and found out in 2015 that she was a transgender woman. So this woman who we thought, was biologically born a woman, we thought this was a Julie Doe for all these years, had no name, and that probably somebody was out there looking for someone and just had the wrong gender. And this happens, when you have someone who goes by a different gender than what they're born with. Sometimes a lot of time, people will go years without discovering that their loved one had passed because of that. So Pamela Lee Walton, born May 13th, 1963 in Kentucky, she was identified as that unalived woman in March 2025. Prior to her identification, she had been estranged from her adoptive family due to a falling out over alleged theft, but this was just alleged, wasn't factual. Her movements between July 6, 1988, when she was arrested in Lexington, Kentucky, and the discovering of her remains in September 1988 remain unknown. We don't know much about this woman. We know a little bit, but not enough to fully connect the dots on this. And that's probably why there's such mystery in this case, because it's just so unknown. We don't know what happened to her in all of those years, where she was living, who she knew. And so we just kind of don't have a lot of information on that. There was DNA tested on a school bag found near her remains, and I can't say that word. Contamination hindered those results. So it was contaminated. We didn't really know what those results were. DNA was kind of sketchy, so we didn't really exactly know. But an expert has offered advanced analysis. So right now, this case is completely under investigation. Right now, we're just up in the air. And what And why this needs attention is because Pamela's unaliving could be solved. We have all these years that people didn't know that Pamela was out there and what she was doing and where she was, and that she was unalived in 1988. So this is a big thing, and DNA has come so far that now we can figure out what happened to Pamela and bring this case to justice. So her unaliving remains that someone else did this. It was ruled as someone else did this. And the person who did that has not been identified. So we're still in kind of a hold on kind of what this incident was like. But there's just such a lack of closure for her adopted family, the people who knew her. They've long lost contact with her in years prior to her going missing. And they want justice. They want to know what happened with Pamela. So there's a potential for a huge breakthrough with DNA, with new opportunities in this case. So I really think we're very, very close. If you happen to live in the area, I'm going to say the area again for you. Clermont, Florida. If you live in the area, you know anybody who lives in the area, you may have been alive or around, close to 1988, or know someone in that time frame, we could get this case solved and we could find out what happened to Pamela. This case is easily solvable. It truly is. And I feel like if we all come together and we all spread this case, I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger. So, yeah, so there's that case. I feel like I need to talk about certain cases now because I feel like we are so close to cracking a lot of unsolved cases because we have DNA. I feel like cases like these are really, really important to talk about, to spread awareness on. And here is what you can do to help. Use your social media platforms to spread awareness, to talk about Pamela, to talk about other unsolved cases. We have the power of talking to, different people, different groups of people that we never would talk to over social media. And when you have a case like this was a cold case for so long and, was misgendered and was maybe one that just didn't get enough attention, and now you get brought back up again, there's so much we can do as social media advocates for cases like this. There are special advocacy groups that you can get involved with that support organizations that focus on unsolved cases, missing persons cases, things you can get involved with. I will try to link some below or on my page. That way you guys kind of know where to go to get that. And then it's just staying involved in, staying informed with these cases, with what's going on with missing person cases and what you can do to help. So that was a lot. Sorry to throw out a lot of information at you, but it was just really passionate to talk about that case, and it was on my heart. And I feel like these cases like this can just easily be solved. So, yeah. So tonight I did have a case that I was going to bring to you guys and talk about, and it's one that's pretty popular. And it is the case of the staircase, Kathleen Peterson. If you know this case, if you know about it or watched the documentary or anything like that, drop me a thumbs up in the chat so you guys, I know who's seen it and who's not. But yeah, we're diving into one of the most infamous cases from the 2000s. Like, this is infamous. It's also very mysterious because we don't exactly know what happened. And it's a case that I would like to really do a deep dive on. Um, but it's something that I think works really well in this platform and in these lives because we can literally talk to each other right now about our theories and about the case. So let's get started on that. Move around here a little bit. All right. So this case, the staircase case, has been one that people have talked about so much. It's very famous. It's very well documented. There's a lot of stuff going on with this case, still going on with this case. There's a lot of theories, some very off the wall theories to talk about. So I'm super excited. So let's talk about the crime. So we're going to talk about the discovery of Kathleen Peterson. She was discovered at the bottom of her stairs in December of 2001. Does this ring a bell to anybody? If it does, please put a thumbs up in the chat so I know that you guys know this case. Catch my breath. It's a lot of talking. So let's talk about the family situation. So there's Michael Peterson, who was an author, a political columnist, pretty wealthy. And then there's Kathleen Peterson, and they lived together in this house. They were married. Didn't seem to have any issues or problems in their marriage. It seemed like a pretty solid relationship from the outside. And then we have the scene. So Kathleen Peterson was found at the bottom of her stairs. She had trauma to her head, and there was red everywhere. If you watch the documentary or see the crime scene photos, you see there's red everywhere with this case. The initial police theory was an accidental fall, that this was an accident and she fell down the stairs. That's one theory versus foul play, which a lot of people also think could be a very definite possibility in this case. So looking at the crime scene photos, it doesn't seem 100% accidental. This seems like a very, very violent situation. It seems like a very hostile situation. You look at the crime scene photos and you can see it in the documentary that it's more spread out over the stairs. Like, it just didn't happen in this one area. Like, it's all over, and it's very, very violent. So let's talk about the husband here, because Michael Peterson becomes the prime suspect. And I think he kind of was like, why are you pointing at me? Why am I a suspect? Why am I being looked at? But in investigations, most of the time, I would say probably 90% of the time, they look at your inner circle. Unless there's a reason not to, they're going to start with your innermost circle and span outward. So they're going to look at your partner, your kids, people you share a home with, like roommates, stuff like that. Then they're going to spread out to your coworkers and your extended family and go there to there. Like, I know people always say, like, the husband did it and the husband's the prime suspect. But more oftentimes than not, he's the suspect or your partner is the suspect. And it's just because that opportunity is so close. And so there. Hello, how are you? So Michael Peterson becomes the prime suspect in all of this. And his past is he was former military, which definitely you can tell just being like seeing him in the documentary that he's that type. And there is some alleged issues of domestic stuff beforehand, and that becomes apparent. Um, we look at his behavior, we look at his drinking habits, his inconsistencies in statements. Like, we're looking at all that stuff to make sure that this person doesn't have such, a strong alibi or something. And then you have the evidence against him, which there is some evidence that this was a staged scene. The red evidence, according to a lot of experts, there was patterns that seem staged, seem like maybe this was someone else who did this. And I mean, we got to look at that. There was also gloves in the car, which is a huge thing. So Michael Peterson began acting strangely. I watched the documentary, and I highly, highly recommend you watch this documentary. It's so well put together. But if you've seen the documentary, he has a suspicious behavior. His behavior is very odd. And people are like, oh, it's just a grieving husband. And maybe it is. So, what do you guys think? Do you think that Michael's behavior in this case was a grieving person, a grieving husband, or do you think this was more than that? And on a scale from 1 to 10, how guilty do you think he is at this point? In my opinion, and I'm not an expert by any means, I think he does act very guilty. I think he does have times, especially in the documentary, where you're like, that is a weird statement to make. That is a weird thing to say. And he has the most opportunity. He was there when this happened. So, yeah. So there is alternate theories in this case. There are some. There is some weird ones. And there is some plausible ones. So the biggest one being that her husband, Michael Peterson, did this. And that he did this because he was having online relationships with men. And he didn't want his partner to find that out. So he did this. And it talks about in the documentary, it kind of takes you through that about like, could he have the motive? Could he have the opportunity? Could he have done this? And absolutely, 100%, he could have. But then there's also the possibility that there's an intruder in this. There was a mysterious man seen in the neighborhood and unsolved break-ins. And those two things, like, you're like, okay, maybe it was an intruder that came in. Here's the thing. So they talk about in the documentary, and I'm talking about the staircase, if anybody is wondering. They talk about in the documentary how easy it was for him to hear her screaming. And they do this experiment that's like just lodged in my brain with someone screaming, like a tape recording of screaming inside the house, and whether or not he could hear it sitting out by the pool or not. And it doesn't look super great for him. I'll just say that. There is the possibility that there was an accidental fall. And I think this is a good theory to a certain extent. The fact that it was a flight of stairs and she was having beverages at that time. She was taking medication. She could have slipped and fell and, hit her head. And there is red stain analysis that confirms that this could have been what was happening. So I think both are very good, plausible explanations. So there are different theories that actually are quite deeper and quite weirder. Ones that involve the stepchildren, even one that is the infamous owl theory. I don't know if you guys have heard about this at all, but people have thought that maybe an owl came in. Excuse me. An owl came in and she was trying to fight it off and fell. And that is the theory because there was feathers from what they believe to be an owl at the scene. Very interesting tidbit, but people ran with that, So which theory feels most plausible in your mind? Type 1 for accident, 2 for Michael, and 3 for intruder. To me, I feel like Michael is probably did this. Just from all the research that I've done, I feel like he just has such a guilty conscience, and the evidence matches up that he definitely could have done this. So let's talk about the trial. So there was a conviction of Michael Peterson, and it was because there was so much evidence against him. There was DNA evidence on the gloves found in his car years later. There was red stain analysis in the staircase and reconstructions of the staircase. And he had the opportunity, he had the motive, he could have completely done this. And then there is Michael Peterson released via the plea deal, which is an ongoing controversy. But do you think he did it, or do you think he's innocent? Do you think that Michael Peterson did unalive his wife? Or do you think it was an accident and he went to prison for nothing? For me, I believe that Scott Peterson did this. I believe he had the opportunity. I believe he had the reason why he would have done this. And I think they got it right. But it's definitely worth a watch. So if you haven't seen The Staircase, please go watch it. Tell me what you think of this case. I might do a deep dive on it. I don't know yet. But please go watch it and then report back and tell me what you think. Right now, I am almost done with my deep dive on Ellen Greenberg. If you haven't watched that, please go to my page. It's under a playlist, and it's extremely interesting case. So I'm going to get off of here for tonight. It was just a quick little true crime chat. I'm so glad that you guys joined me, and I am excited to see what other theories you have on this case, and I will be talking to you soon. All right, bye-bye.